is the early edition of NewsCenter 5 with Linda Yu at the anchor desk, Mike Lederman with sports, and Terry Burhans with the weather.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Linda Yu. Mike Jackson is on vacation this weekend. In the news, there has been a big surprise in politics today. Republican presidential candidate John Connally has just announced that he has dropped out of the race. Now, the former governor of Texas has spent millions of dollars of his own money over the past several months. However, yesterday he came in a distant second to Ronald Reagan in the South Carolina primary. This afternoon, Connally has withdrawn, saying, "I don't think my continuation as a candidate will be of benefit to the party or to the country." Well, now that two major Republican presidential hopefuls have dropped out of the race, there is a movement afoot to get former President Gerald Ford into the running. Our Rich Samuels reports there's now a draft Ford organization open for business here.
The former president is, of course, not a candidate, so his name won't be on the Illinois primary beauty contest ballot, and there are presently no delegates here on that ballot officially committed to his support.
And as the field begins to narrow down and as Americans continue to be concerned about their future security and well-being in light of the Carter administration's gross mismanagement of our affairs, I think they have reached the conclusion that they want to join the Ford team. I think that is the first step in building an ever-widening coalition, which in fact is going to be the fundamental principle of Gerald Ford being nominated and then elected President of the United States.
But the draft Ford people are in town and downstate nonetheless, trying to ease the way into the ring for Ford by salvaging delegates from another Republican who's withdrawn from the race. Senator Howard Baker bowed out last Wednesday, but before doing so, he acquired more than 50 delegate candidates on the primary ballot. The draft Ford people are now trying to woo them to the cause of the former president.
In addition, our field organizers have, in the natural course of events, been in contact with the over 50 delegate candidates filed in support of Senator Baker's candidacy. And no fewer than 35, and perhaps as many as 45, will support a Ford candidacy over that of the others in the Republican field.
Now that John Connally's withdrawn from the race, the Ford people say they'll make a pitch for his delegates here too. The only problem is, time is of the essence, but time is short. The Ford people say they won't know which Baker delegates are now on their side until Wednesday. And that leaves a scant 6 days to get the message to the voters before the March 18th primary. Rich Samuels, NewsCenter 5.
Another Republican candidate, John Anderson, is expected to do very well here in this Illinois primary. He hopes to be able to handle that possible Ford candidacy in a rather unusual way the day after our primary.
I hope to do sufficiently well here in Illinois on the 18th of March that I can call my old friend, President Ford, on the 19th and suggest that on the basis of my performance that he ought to endorse me.
Well, whatever former President Ford decides to do, John Anderson has already picked up some important endorsements. And the two major Chicago newspapers, the Tribune and the Sun-Times, along with the Hutchinson News, all of them are picking Anderson as their choice for the Republican nomination. And then on the Democratic side, President Jimmy Carter is getting the nod from both the Tribune and the Sun-Times. Both newspapers point up weaknesses in the Carter leadership. However, they say they do prefer him to Senator Edward Kennedy. Well, the senator himself was back in Chicago today pressing his own campaign for that March 18th primary. Paul Hogan followed him today.
It was billed as a ladies' tea party, sponsored by Mayor Byrne, attended by thousands of Chicago Democratic women, all for the benefit of the Kennedy campaign. There was lots of tea and coffee and punch, and this word of warning for the women.
And don't listen to the whisper campaign, because if the whisper campaign is what we base our decisions on, we could end up with 4 more years of what's been going on.
The whispering campaign Mayor Byrne was alluding to, of course, is Chappaquiddick and the problems Senator Kennedy has had subsequent to it, especially among women voters.
What is